Good morning, brothers and sisters. Just doing another Sabbath video for you guys today. But as always, before we start, we must give glory, honor, and praise to the Most High in heaven. Glory, honor, and praise to His Son Yeshua. Amen. Okay. Got a special treat for you guys today, and the lesson is about the Shroud of Turin. First of all, I'll have a look at how we got this gift from the Most High. Then I'll look into the deception behind the forgery claims. Then undisputed proof, it is 100% real. Okay, praise the Most High. Undeniable proof that it's the body and face and of Jesus Christ. Okay. First, I'll read to you guys the book of John 14 and 9. And it reads, Jesus said unto them, Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me? Philip, he that hath seen me hath seen the Father. And how sayest thou, then shew us the Father? Believest thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? The word that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but from the Father that dwelleth in me. He doeth the works. The Shroud of Turin is the face of Christ, so we have seen the Father. In the book of Exodus, I believe it is, Moses asked the Most High if he could see his face, and the Most High says to Moses, Moses, if you see my face, you will die. If you wait till I walk past, then look at my back, you won't die. Also in the book of 2nd Enoch, Enoch has to have his face frozen by the angels, so when he goes back down to earth, he was able to look at his family without them dying. Okay, so this glorious Shroud of Turin is here for the whole world to see. Okay? Robert Spitzer says to create a shroud like that, you would need 14,000 ARF eczema lasers to be shone on the shroud at the same time. $6 to 8 billion watts of light to put on that image all at the same time, and it would have had to be 1/40 billionth of a second flash that fast, otherwise the cloth would be disintegrated. Okay, so we had to have a 1/40 billionth of a second for that image to be on the cloth without the cloth being destroyed. Okay, from the light and from the heat. Okay. Now, Pope John Paul allowed the testing in 1988. This data exposed the shroud as a fake. I'll give you guys a little bit more information about that later. Okay, 1978, the first time scientists were allowed to test the shroud. Ray Rogers was a man of science, not of God. Okay, he plays a major part in discovering that the shroud is legitimate. I'll talk a little bit more about him later. Now, the shroud vanished for centuries, up until the 1400s. It resurfaced in a town called Leary. In 1532, there was a fire, and water was used by the nuns to put out the fire, which stained the shroud. In 1578, it was moved to north of Italy, to Turin. In 1898, the world knew about the shroud because of the negative image created by Italian Secondo Piri. He took a photo which the negative made the shroud famous. Okay, so what happened was that the shroud had a negative image when Christ went through it. So when he took a photo, the negative became a positive. Yeah, so the whole world could see Christ's face. Okay, the Bible says that many false Christs will arise, so we have a photo of Christ's face, so whoever believes in him won't be fooled by the Antichrist, okay, and other religions coming along saying that he looks like something else. Okay, in 1931, another photographer named Giuseppe Henri, took more photos. Science took notice of the shroud again. Scientists used a machine called the VP8. Okay, what it was, this machine was developed to when aerial photos of forests were taken. It was created to make 3D images so that you could map forests and areas from aerial view. Yeah, so the negative image on the shroud allowed Christ's face to be made into 3D. Okay, I'll post up photos of that later. Okay. The scientists discovered that there is nothing else like this on the face of the earth. We don't have the technology to produce this face, okay? So how could it have been made in the 1500s if it can't even be replicated today, okay? The Shroud of Turin Research Group was created in 1978. They had 5 days to test the validity of the shroud. They discovered it had chemical signatures of real blood. Serum was the liquid medium in which red blood cells are suspended. That the artist back then would have known to put the serum, and it would have been tested 500 years later, and then those serum would be made visible with the UV light. No chance. Um, an examination was made from a forensic expert showing that the piercings to the hand would have made the thumb turn in. If you have a look at the hands of Christ, his thumbs were both turned in. I'll post up a photo of that. Okay. Also, the forensic expert examined the trauma wounds of Christ, the curls, the blood curling, that's consistent with blood force trauma. Okay, and also your adrenaline when you're getting tortured. Okay. Now here's the deception. Pope John Paul II tested the shroud and carbon dating in 1988. Now, the Pope allowed the corner that was repaired by the nuns to be tested. This part of the shroud was dyed the same colour as the original, so when it was tested it could be called a fake. And the whole world was told the shroud was a fake. Now the Pope had photos of the original tests that were done in 1978, so he knew from infrared UV light that the section that he gave to be tested was the darkened section that was repaired by the nuns. Okay, so he's part of the deception. The tests came back, the tested parts, there were 4 parts sent to different laboratories over the world, okay, and the readings came back that it had to be made from between 1260 and 1390. Okay, so each section that had more cotton in it showed an earlier date because it had more cotton which was put in after. Okay, so the 4 different sections that were tested had 4 different dates. Okay. Okay. Also, the test showed that only the tested part had dye on it. Okay. The rest was totally just all bodily fluids. Okay. Ray Rogers researched the cloth. There were scientists, artists that were obsessed by the shroud. Okay, there was 3 years of work done by Dr. Peter Soons. He's a 3D expert. He created another picture that sparked new interest in the shroud. A really good 3D picture. I'll post up photos of that. Sue Benford and Joe Marino were not scientists, but in 2000 they discovered that the dyed part was tested and that the cotton was much thinner than the original linen on the cloth. They also convinced Ray to test the shroud samples again because what Ray discovered was that the linen had cotton woven into it. I'll post up photos of that. The cotton was much thinner than the linen. Okay. Ray Rogers knew the shroud in 1978. Tested showed no paint, no dyes, no artificial pigments, but he found dyes and artificial pigments on the tested sample. He discovered that the cotton part was added and dyed to fool the world. The shroud is linen and the woven part is cotton. Ray died on 8th of the 3rd, 05 at the age of 78. Okay, he knew that the cotton and linen were woven together. Also, they found mites on the actual shroud. So what happened was the Vatican put it in a box with thymol, which kills everything. This would destroy the cloth as well. The Vatican tried to destroy the shroud on many occasions. It's been told that they lit the fire in 1532. Okay, so they could be using problem reaction solution here. They create a problem, we react, the solution is worse than the problem. Yeah, so you know, if they ever let us test it again, hopefully it's all still in one piece. There's new evidence. The pollen found on the shroud from Israel, there were 5 pollens found on the shroud, fragments of pollen. Okay, only four of them are from Israel, so that proves that the shroud was taken from Israel. Okay, there was 1 pollen from Italy, I think it was from Turin. That pollen only grows in Turin, I think it was. Okay. Also, the Roman coins were used in the eyes of Christ. Okay, there were 2. If someone dies and their eyes were left open, they close their eyes and put coins on them. The coins on Christ's eyes were minted by Pontius Pilate. These coins were only minted in 29 AD. That also proves it's not a fake. Another way we know that the shroud is 100% real. Okay, the face cloth at Oviedo in Spain was discovered in 1616 AD. Okay, there was 120 blood splatters on the shroud. There was also 120 on the face cloth of Christ. So what happened there is when the Hebrews took their loved ones off the cross, if they had like fluid coming out of their face or whatever, they put a face cloth over it, then took it back, and then what they did, they take the face cloth off, they put the shroud on. The same blood marks were on the face cloth as were on the shroud. So that would be impossible if it was a forgery, since the face cloth of Oviedo was found in 1616 AD. Okay, and the blood traumas were in exactly the same spot. Also, when they took the face cloth off to put the shroud over Christ, he went through the shroud, he didn't go through the face cloth, so all the blood marks were on the face cloth with no outline of Christ's face, and Christ went through the shroud and his body shape was on the cloth, and the same marks were on the face cloth, and also on the Shroud of Turin. That also proves it's real. Now I'll just prove to you guys, reading from the Bible, that there was a face cloth and there was also the body cloth, okay? Some of my friends think that there was no face cloth, so I'll read this one to you, reading from the book of John 20, 4 and 8. Reading from the book of John, chapter 20, verse 4 to 8. So they ran both together, and the other disciples did outrun Peter, and came first to the sepulchre. And he stooped down and looked in, and saw the linen cloth lying, yet went he not in. Then cometh Peter, following him, and went into the sepulchre, and seeth the linen cloth lies, and the napkin that was about his head not lying with the linen cloth, but wrapped together in a piece by itself. Then went in also that other disciples which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. Okay. So the face cloth was in a separate area to the body cloth. So obviously different disciples took the face cloth, and obviously different disciples took the body cloth. That's how they got separated. In 1616, the face cloth of Oviedo was discovered. Okay. Now also what happened was the Passover was drawing near, so all the bodily fluids were left on Christ, because the Hebrews could not do any work on the Sabbath. It was drawing closer to the new day. They left the body fluids on Christ, because the Most High set that up. So when Christ's body went through, all the bodily fluids would be left on that Shroud of Turin for the whole world to see. Okay? Okay, so Ray Rogers also discovered that if they wanted to retest the shroud, if they tested the charred parts, they would get a really good test result, because the charred section allows for good carbon dating. The shroud cannot be replicated even with all the technology we have today. So how could somebody have created a fake in the 1500s without the technology we have today? That's also how we know it's real. Okay. The last point I would like to make is that in 1532 the nuns put out the fire with water. If it was paint or created, the paint would have smudged, or it would have smeared, and we wouldn't be able to make out the face of Christ. But as you can see from the photos I've posted, that the image still remained the same even with all that water put over it. Okay, so I think I've been able to show you guys without a shadow of a doubt that the Shroud of Turin has been put there by the Most High, so we are not deceived by false prophets and also by the Antichrist. We have the image of Christ's face for the whole world to see. So just finishing, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say glory, honour and praise to the Most High in heaven, and glory, honour and praise to His Son Yeshua. Amen.